theme of your book, Age of Greed, The Triumph of Finance and the Decline of America, fit into explaining this story and what you feel needs to be done?
Well, I think the Age of America begins in the 1970s. Our problem began in the 1970s. We had an ideological shift in America back then, and I explain why in this book. Through the people who were involved, all the way up to the present, we had financial crisis after financial crisis since then. But I think this ideological shift continues. Usually, many people think, and Arthur Schlesinger Jr. used to write about this, the pendulum swings back from right to left. I never believed that was real history. This pendulum swung back very slightly in late 2008, 2009, and the country has gone right again, swung back to the right again. I think this ideology, which I began to explain in Age of Greed, became so fundamental in the 1970s, basically an anti-government ideology, which is not consistent with American history, certainly wasn't consistent with the progressive period that didn't only begin in the New Deal, but in the late 1800s, has turned America into a place that is very close to the precipice, very close to serious decline. Nations do decline. We have a long history of declining nations in the history of humanity. America is not immune to that decline, and unless it deals with its problems, it will be in trouble. I think we are in trouble, frankly. Sorry to sound alarmist, but I think alarm is probably the best message I could send the American people. We won't just muddle through. Our future is not guaranteed. We've got to take it in our hands.
But how do you account then for the reality that in so many places around the country, efforts to rein in this boom among the wealthy in terms of tax cuts have been defeated? You saw it in New York State, where even a Democratic governor would not raise taxes on the wealthy. In Minnesota, the governor there apparently has agreed to a deal where he won't raise taxes in order to get the state back. And Obama's having the same problem in Washington.
We developed an anti-tax ideology, an anti-government ideology in the 1970s. I never believed it would have staying power. It's partly has had staying power because business and powerful vested interests have supported it through lobbying and through well-financed think tanks. It's somewhat tragic. We have a low-tax country, relatively speaking. We can afford what we have to do, which includes social programs and public investments. It doesn't mean we don't get better at government. It doesn't mean some things don't have to be pruned. But we do have the resources to handle our problems. We have a serious ideology that's getting in the way. If I just could take one more minute, in early 1973, Ronald Reagan, when he was governor of the state of California, tried to get an amendment passed to his Constitution to cut state income taxes. It was called Proposition 1, and it was soundly defeated by the Californians in early 1973. They said, no, we don't want to cut our income taxes. And in fact, we believe in government. 5 years later, 1978, Proposition 13, we all know about it, led to a tax revolt in America. In my view, in those 5 years, Americans changed. I always thought we would change back. We haven't.
We want to thank you for being with us, and we're going to go in on our next segment looking at one of these think tanks, one of these organizations that is shaping America. Jeff Madrick has been our guest. Age of Greed, The Triumph of Finance and the Decline of America, 1970 to the Present, is his new book, regular contributor to the New York Review of Books and fellow at the Roosevelt Institute and head of policy research at the Schwartz Center for Economic Policy at the New School. This is Democracy Now! Back in a minute.